Yeah, so thanks everybody for watching this video. We're going to talk about omnichannel personalization as part of our larger real-time predictive personalization topic using next best offer engines to achieve effective customer journeys in the digital space. We're going to start with talking about how do people buy. And imagine that somebody wants to buy a car, which is a medium size, medium complexity product. Not very simple, not like fast moving consumer goods, but not as complicated as B2B products where committees can make decisions. Now, in some families, this is still probably a committee making the decision, but let's assume that for this purpose, it's a single customer. So how do people buy, for example, in this case, a car? Well, first of all, they become aware that, let's say, electric cars made it to the market, or maybe self-driving cars, or any other vehicle that actually is maybe innovative. Once they hear that, the customer might be interested in switching from their existing car to the new technology. Maybe they first want to look at how much are these new cars and to see if they can afford it. And if the price is interesting, they might want to find out what else should they know about the car. Maybe in the case of an electric car, how does it charge, how many miles it goes on a single charge, and so on. In the process, they might find out that they need to install special equipment at their house, and they might check on that and so on. And at some point, once they're educated, they will they will compare it, with features, whether they should go for one car or one model or another, or compare with with a traditional car, and so on. In this process, they might go back and forth. Once they educate themselves, they go back to the price and compare it. They might find out about new things, so they might become aware of new things, and they might check on that. Once they're in the consideration phase, they might need to educate themselves some more, go back to pricing when they consider different models and so on. And at some point, they will make the decision. One of the things that they might consider when acquiring the car is whether to purchase it, finance it maybe, or lease it. And if they lease it, what will they do in a few years? If they don't consider themselves, probably the company will remind them in once the lease expires to upgrade to a new model or continue with a lease or purchase that car and so on. Now, companies take all these activities and to make them more efficient, they linearize them. And this linear experience becomes a customer journey. Now, it's not that it's always that one phase follows after the other. Most companies actually allow back and forth between the phases, but one of the most common sequences to go from awareness to education, consideration, purchase, and then later on repurchase, depending on the product. Now, the question is, how does this work in the digital? And to understand how it goes in the digital world, we will first look at the traditional journeys, where, for example, in the print world, companies that actually provided such a journey and wanted to make people aware and then educate them a little, they provided a number of ways in print. And typically, the way companies have done that, or if they have new offerings, they typically worked on the creative. They worked backward from the time that um, the materials needed to be taken to the printer, and organize a schedule where they do the copy, they do the graphics, the ideation, and let's say on Thursday they send it to the printer. By Monday they get it back from the printer, and by Tuesday it gets into people's mail. And the next week it was followed the same schedule, and the week after. And this was driven mainly by logistics. People were also expecting often in their inboxes if they figured it out. But the main reason for this space was actually company driven, company centered, and it gravitated around logistics. Now, in the digital space, we have much more flexibility. We're not bound by such constraints. And what we want to do is to, for example, start with, in this case, awareness content by sending, in this case, Bob, as an example, an email where Bob might actually look at it and at some point during the week visit the website that we actually promoted in the email. And once they visit the website and maybe click on what we were offering, we will follow up with another email. Let's say in this case, the next phase, education. And on this one, the customer will probably progress at their pace. Maybe there are several steps that they do. At some point, we decide that they actually visited and they educated themselves enough, so we follow with consideration content. And once they have consideration content, the Bob, let's say, at his pace, quick or slower. In this case, it's actually fairly quick. In a couple of days, they consume the consideration offers. And after that, we want to send them purchase offers, and in a while, we hope that actually Bob will actually make a decision and purchase the product. Now, completely random, another person, in this case it's Kate, will start the same way. But let's say that Kate, for whatever reason, either she's busy or she's taking her time, will take longer to get to the web page. We don't want to bother her with other emails unless, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks pass. We want to give her the time to go at her pace. Once actually she progressed there, we send her education content where maybe because now Kate is interested or because maybe she has more time, she would progress to the education quicker. Once she gets at a certain level of education, which we typically measure by the offers consumed, maybe it can be a single offer or multiple offers or whatever it is, however we keep track of that, however we design the journey. We will continue with consideration, which again in this case may be because Kate didn't do all the education properly or quickly or whatever, she will take more time. And or because she's busy, or because she's on vacation, or because she has other things to be concerned with. At some point, however, maybe she will finalize this, and at that time we send her an offer, a purchasing offer, or maybe a discount, or the pricing information, and we hope that Kate will purchase too. As you can see, the pace that at which customers progress in the pipeline is actually driven by the customer. We engage with customers when we have their attention. We allow them to control the pace, and we drive them toward progression. We make sure that we don't skip something. For example, in the first example in the print world, if the customer is on vacation, they would have missed, for example, a wave. In this case, we actually wait for them to engage and to consume our offers, and we can send them reminders and so on. But we, as much as possible, we want to progress through the pipeline at their pace. Now, we see here that we do send emails out and then we interact with the customer on the web. So that's already a multi-channel journey, but what we don't account here for is that actually between the different phases, the customer can progress on the web as well. If they are really interested, they will not wait for the next email. They will actually progress. So how do we act when the customer actually has interest, and we could progress journeys through email, on the web, possibly on the phone, at the kiosk, and so on. See on the next slide. And here we have actually multiple channels. We have web, email, and phone. And typically we still start with, let's say in this case, we start with a customer visiting a page. We check if the customer had already started the journey before. In this case, it didn't. So then we send them the first piece of content in the journey, which in this case is awareness content. Now the customer is aware that the way we do that is we display that as the dynamic content on a page. The customer went to the original page for a reason, typically, so they might read the fixed content that they actually visited in the first place. They might or might not click on the dynamic content. If they don't, then they visit other pages, and we probably want to display this same awareness content on other pages as well until they click on it. Once they click on it, they consumed the marketing offer for awareness. So the next time they do anything after they consume the offer, let's say they click again on a page, what we do is we check where the user is in the journey again, and we display the next piece of content in the journey. In this case, it's education content, and since we'll have several of them, we call it education content 1. This way we progress on the web. Same thing, once the user may do different things. At one point they will consume this offer, whatever it is. Maybe it's a white paper, maybe it's a video, maybe it's a data sheet or a calculator or whatever it is. Now let's say that the customer stops visiting the website. They are done with the session and for a while they do not come back. What do we want to do? We can wait for them for a while, but let's say a week or two have passed, and we want to progress the journey. So what we do is we want to send them an email. Okay. Now, typically in companies, what happens in a siloed system, the journey would restart. And in this case, it would go back to awareness content 1. Well, we've already done that, and the customer might not be interested. So that's actually not the way to go. What we really want to do is to check whether the customer is in their journey and send them the next piece of content. In this case, education content 2, which is the natural progression in the journey. Okay. Now, this as the customer actually progressed already, and if that is interesting for them, they will probably have the highest chances to continue or to progress because we organize the content in a natural flow. Now, let's say the customer does that and goes on the web and consumes that or downloads directly from the email if we embed it. And then at some point, they continue again on the website and they visit other pages. What do? We check whether the user is in the journey and we display the next piece of content, which in this case is education content 3. As you can see, we have already continued the flow, the journey across 2 channels. So let's say now the customer calls in. Okay, what do we want to do for such a case? Well, again, we check where the journey is where the user is in the journey, and on the phone we talk to them not about awareness content 1, which we will do in a siloed system. Okay, but what we want to do is display the next piece of content in the journey, which in this case is consideration content. Actually, not display, but have the customer rep talk to them. Now, this could be also if the customer stopped visiting the website and we do an outbound call, or if the customer maybe calls in to ask either about a different transaction, in which case we mention the next step in the journey, or maybe they call exactly about a product that we actually configured or created a journey about. Okay. Now the customer progress, they go again on the web at some point, and we check where the user is in their journey, and again prepare and display the next piece of content. If at some point if the customer clicks on it, then basically they maybe decide we can at a later point send they bought a product. At a later point they what we want to display from there on is repurchasing or loyalty content. Now, if depending on the product, we might want to sell them the same product. If, for example, the product is something like shampoo or something that people use repeatedly, or if it's a product that maybe, let's say, they bought a printer and we want to send them or advertise cartridges, we would actually display those. Or in the case of coffee, again, it's a repurchase. In the case of a coffee machine, it's actually selling the cartridges or the cups for the coffee machine. As you can see, what this does is actually keeps track of where the user is in the journey across channels, very important. And also it tags offers so that once a customer interacts on one of the channel, the system automatically, the next best offer engine, automatically selects the appropriate content. Now, to some very high level architecture here on the next slide, we can see that we have an offer management system where we tag offers for typically for product or family of products and pipeline phase and possibly other criteria. We also have another system where we keep track of where in the journey a customer is at any point per uh, content or per account if we do B2B, if we do ABM, account-based marketing, and again for product or family of products. Why do we keep track of product? That's very important because a customer can be interested in several products and can be at different points in the journey for each product. Okay. Now, this input together with the interaction is actually evaluated by the next best offer engine, which selects and presents the optimal offer to the customer on any of the channels that the customer interacts on, that being the web, email, mobile, kiosk or an ATM, a call center, inbound or outbound, or in person as well, whether they visit a branch and the teller pulls out the next best offer from a next best offer engine, or at an event in person, again based either dynamically based on the latest interactions, or historically where let's say a salesperson prepares ahead of time. Now, all this can be controlled in real time and optimized by machine learning. And the way that works is that no matter what we how we configure it there, the next best offer engine works on assumptions that the customer might be interested in a certain offer. Typically, we have different pieces of content for a phase, which we might want to offer in sequence or at random, and they are scored. Let's say depending on the attributes of the user, whether they're technically oriented or business oriented, we might present some offers or others. By tracking in real time and analyzing what offers have the higher conversion rates and testing other offers that may or may not fit the rules or the assumptions in the best way, machine learning can optimize that process. We can also override machine learning by, for example, if we have a new launch of a product, we might not want to go with the highest conversion rate because customers would go to the old product more often than to the new product because of awareness. And in the case of a new launch, we want to still display the newly launched product, even if the conversion rate is lower. So we always have that option, but fundamentally, the next best offer the next best offer engine selects the offer based on the assumptions and the rules, the input gotten from the offer management system, and or selecting the offer from the offer management system based on where in the journey the user is, and that can be optimized in real time to ensure that we're adapting to trends, to the specific customers based on customers' behavior. Okay. Again, all this is meant make the journey of the customer the best customer experience. At Transize, we have partnered with IBM, who actually has probably the most scalable and enterprise robust offer in the industry, namely the product called Interact. And together we offer an enterprise strength solution for omnichannel predictive personalization. We have a portfolio of over a dozen Fortune 500 implementations, and we are best equipped to assist you in selecting the right technologies, preparing the best strategies, and implementing a robust and scalable predictive personalization engine that delivers an optimal customer experience across channels. Free consultation, please write to the email addresses on the screen or go to our website, and we are happy to provide you with best possible solution for your personalization needs to ensure that you adapt in real time, not to what the customer searched yesterday and maybe already purchased, but what they want now or what they will want tomorrow, so that we're actually prepared when the customer wants to buy and not pitch what they probably already bought yesterday. Thank you very much.